Hi guys, Freddy here, welcome back to another Retro RPG. And the end of another poll, and the winner this time was Traveller 2300 AD. Well, this is just 2300 AD, it's the second edition of Traveller 2300 AD, and that's what I'll be covering. Now, Traveller 2300 AD was dominating the poll this week. We got almost 50% of the vote, and it was clear it was going to win virtually from the beginning. So this week it's been swapped out. Now I've been pretty busy, so I'm not going to swap out two games this week. I'm just taking that out of the poll and I'm putting in Shadowrun 3rd Edition. Because I've had a couple of requests covering Shadowrun 3rd Edition to finish off all of the Fazza versions of Shadowrun. But I don't get to choose what's the video anymore. So now it's over to you to decide whether you want me to cover Shadowrun or whether you want one of the many other options to be done next week. Anyway, let's go over to the tabletop. So, this is 2300 AD, which is the second edition of Traveller 2300. Now, Traveller 2300 came out in 1986, and this came out in 1988. Now, Traveller 2300 was kind of a hybrid between GDW's line of Traveller games and their Twilight 2000 game, hence the name being of a similar format, which they got into a trend of for a while, because they obviously had Space 1889, Twilight 2000, and Traveller 2300. Now, they'd released Traveller, and it was very popular. Now, Traveller's a sci-fi game of sort of high-tech. It's kind of Star Wars. You've got hyperdrives, you've got alien species, laser guns, all that kind of stuff. But they'd had a lot of success with Twilight 2000, a more gritty role-playing game. So the idea was to bring out this Traveller 2300, which was going to take the sci-fi back slightly and add a more gritty realism to it. So it was going to be more like the Aliens movies, where you can travel from world to world in spaceships, but it's very limited, that people still fight with projectile weapons, not laser guns, etc., etc. It's the 1980s, but sci-fi, essentially. Later on in Traveller 2300's existence, Cyberpunk had come out, and Cyberpunk was the new hot thing. So they tried to merge it in with 2300 AD, releasing cybertech sourcebooks and things, but it always felt like a very unmatched, not a very good match. Now let's go over to the back cover. Now there is a lot of text in here, so I'm going to briefly go over it. So, man has made it to the stars. Now he must fight to stay here. Human soldiers fight the implacable alien Kafirs. Police fight smugglers, pirates, and terrorists on rich human colonies. Explorers fight uncharted systems of the frontier. Colonists fight hostile environments on strange worlds. And nations fight each other for political power to determine who will lead the human race in this struggle to tame the universe. You can be part of this new age in 2300 AD, the state of the art in science fiction role-playing. Now, that's something I get a lot from the back of this box, that they're dissing other role-playing games. We'll see that in a second, though. History. 2300 plays against a background of Earth and its colonies 300 years after World War III, the Twilight War. So this is a direct sequel to Twilight 2000. The Twilight War tore up the Earth, caused havoc, and basically caused the fall of the United States as the major world power. And rather strangely, France is the country which has dominated. The world is dominated by the Third French Empire. They control the largest area of space, mainly by luck, perhaps, because the Americans chose to go out into space in a certain direction, and the gaps between the stars are further than the hyperdrive, the stutter warp drives, can reach. So the Americans have expanded out into an area of space and can go no further at the current tech level, whereas the French have an expansive space and can keep on going further and further from Earth. The Near Star Catalogue. The 2300 AD universe deals with star systems within 50 light years of Earth. Researchers produced the most accurate star map ever made. Well, I'd be intrigued to see how that matches up now. More than 700 stars in over 500 systems are displayed on a 22-inch by 25-inch colour map. Well, we'll see that in a second. Game systems. Playable realism. Many games which are realistic are unplayable. Most playable games are not terribly realistic. 2300 is both playable and realistic at once, balancing detail with simple, accurate game systems. Now that really seems like it's dissing other games. I would definitely put aside realism for playability anytime these days. I'd much rather have a fun game. But where science fiction games, Living Steel, I think I've covered before, which had incredibly detailed rules, including how long it would take you to bleed to death after taking a wound and all that, 2300 is not aiming to be towards that. It is aiming to be a bit of a faster system, but keeping the realism that many people saw Twilight 2000 had introduced. Game components: Adventurer's Guide, Director's Guide, Near-Star Map, Play Aids, 16 pages of forms, 8-page solitaire adventure, 8-page catalogue of star data, and some dice. Well, obviously the dice have been long since removed. In this box, we've got a big glossy silver sticker on the front, which says, Free Inside, Kefir Dawn module. So, let's open up the box. So, inside, the first thing we've got is the errata page, which is kind of nice, knowing that we got a later version, and they've actually corrected their mistakes. The Adventurer's Guide, Director's Guide, just the little mistakes. We've got the Adventurer's Guide. We've got the Director's Guide. We've got the glossy map, which I will unfold. Whoops. And it's a very large map of dots, each with names assigned. Now, I'm sure this is massively important for realism, but to tell the truth, do we really need to know that? Or do we just tell our players, oh yes, you're sitting down on Procyon, or Alpha Centauri, or whatever. There's the free adventure, Kefir Dawn. The front line of mankind's fight for survival. The inhabitants of Aurora always took a special pride in their home. Kefir Dawn covers the campaign to mop up the Auroran hotback from the viewpoint of several adventurers who have come to join the fight against mankind's most bitter foe. And lastly, we've got the GDW game response card with the address in Bloomington, Illinois. Now, I'll put the box and all this out of the way, and we'll start having a look through the books. So we've got the Adventurer's Guide. Now, the first thing I noticed when going through these was the very strange formatting of the contents page. Because on the outside here, we've got it in alphabetical order. So, armor, careers, character sheets, colonies, right through to weapons. But that mixes up the page order. And then we've got the repeat of the contents page, but this time by page number. Just strikes me as being a little odd. Anyway, into the Adventurer's Guide itself, we've got a guide to the intelligent races. Introduction. What is role-playing? The referee's task. Most important rules. Reading the dice. Then we're on to character generation. Now, because it's fairly low-tech and trying for realism, people have different body types depending on what type of planet they're from. So you're far likely to be heavily muscled if you're from a high-gravity planet. But there is still some randomness in there. Character attributes, background skills, career skills, because as like most of the Games Designers Workshop games, this is a career-based system where you take your character through their life, through their education, and they gain their skills and talents from what they do during their life up to the start of play. Something I absolutely love, although it does lead to some very strange characters. Finalizing the character, renown, character generation, the point-based system. And character sheet here. Careers, so we've got military careers, exploratory careers, academic careers, frontier world careers, core world careers, government and civilian careers, ship crew careers, extra legal careers. Then we're on to the skills, which cover the most of the standard. Upkeep, so where your people live. And then it details through technology, because genetic engineering to allow people to comfortably live on different planets is a major part of it. Equipment, various sci-fi stuff, but within believable range. Hand tools, the ever-present chainsaw and circular saw there. Electronic repair tools, multi-tools. Remotely piloted drone, which is rather nice. Auto-injector gun, so you can tranquilize things. Med kits, auto-med systems. Hand communicator. How chunky is that mobile phone? Tight beam uplink communicator, backpack or vehicle communicator. Various computers. And this is kind of where you get the feeling that Cyberpunk was just patched into 2300 AD, because for a Cyberpunk background you'd really expect a lot more of computers than that, whereas they are very much glossed over. In fact, that's it over. That's the computer section. Got personal power systems, and then we're on to weapons. Very nicely laid out, giving you good illustrations of what the future weapons are. Now, I've criticised Twilight 2000 for having too many weapons, because that's very much a game of where you're finding what's lay around. It's post-apocalyptic. But in 2300 AD, obviously you can go out shopping. So I do like having a huge range of weapons with different abilities and different countries here. Handguns, lasers, plasma guns, man-portable, sonic stunners, grenade launchers, hand grenades, guided ordnance. Then we're on to armor. From chainmail vest to full body combat armor. We've got powered armor, or powered combat armor as they call it in this. We've got vehicles going from family cars up to various hovercraft, vertical takeoff vehicles, aircraft and interceptors. We've got the history going through from the 1700s through the Twilight War and the recovery afterwards, exploring out into space. Indonesian War, Central Asian War, detailing the wars of the future and how the world got shaped. Then the political geography. Out into the solar system. And then we're out into space, the American arm of the galaxy, the Chinese arm of the galaxy, and the much larger French arm of the galaxy. The fingers. So as you've got these major arms, you've got fingers breaking off at the end with much smaller branches. A huge list of colony worlds, just giving you a quick detail. A full list of colonies of Earth, nations of Earth, and then some tables at the end of the player's book here. Detailed maps of the different arms of the galaxy, and a smaller version of the near star map. And then we've got the director's guide. So again, with the weird setup of the contents page, with alphabetical order and then numerical order. We go in, introduction, preparing for play, bringing action to life. Very nice guiding first-time games master through what they've got to do. Running adventures, the referee's job. This is really well written. I have to say that GDW by this point had absolutely mastered it. I've heard criticisms of the original Traveller 2300 of being not terribly well formatted, of missing sections. There was no experience system, for example. But by this second edition, it was so much better. Role of referee experience. Where to get adventures from. Organizations. So different people that the players might do missions for. Texas Rangers. Staff Rural Police. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I apologise. experience and renown. So how that works. The font size comparison chart. So different species and with them labeled this time. Now the main aliens in Traveller 2300 are the Kafirs. They are humanity's biggest enemy as the adventure listed. Although these other species are detailed somewhat. But the Kafirs are a really interesting idea. They're one of those ideas which stand out as amongst the best things in the Traveller 2300 setting. The Kafirs are an alien species who are basically very stupid. They have an IQ round about 40. But their version of adrenaline when they're in danger isn't to make them more aggressive and faster like human adrenaline. It's to make them smarter. So the Kafirs, when they're in danger, their IQ jumps up to above human. They get up to like an IQ of 140 or so. So they become geniuses when they're in danger. But that leads to the entire species being pretty much addicted to being in danger to uplift themselves and to develop new technologies. So one of their reasons for their war against humans is to constantly be in danger, so the adrenaline or their version of adrenaline is flowing, so their species is smarter. The game also details that when you enter play with Kafirs, for the first few rounds of combat, I believe it's indicated about 1d6 rounds, the Kafirs are really stupid. They will just attack. But as soon as the adrenaline kicks in, they suddenly become a lot smarter and they get bonuses to seeking cover, using advanced tactics and all that, so become much more lethal opponents. Anyway, carrying on through, we've got a lot of detail about the Kafirs here, the first encounters with them. I believe that's where it says. Kafirs' intelligence is always low until shortly after combat begins. Then it jumps as much by 10 points or more. So they start with an intelligence of 2, but they can get intelligence after 1d6 turns of 12. So become pretty darn smart. The pentapods, the klaxon, the ebbers, the xiang. Just different species, but none of these stand out as being really that interesting. They would fit into any setting. What I do like is the hit charts. So you roll when you're attacking them, and if you hit a heart, basically you're getting a critical hit. If you're hitting a diamond, then you are hitting a vital area, so doing quite heavy damage. I can't remember if it's double damage, but if you're hitting a circle, it's a standard hit. So depending on where you hit, you stand a chance of damaging the opponent far more. On to the event resolution section. Just how you roll your skill rolls. Task resolution. Non-player characters. NPC motivations, draw a card from a pack of cards. If you draw clubs, diamonds, hearts or spades, and which card you get determines their personality. We've got the combat section, which I understand in first edition was quite a slow system, but this is somewhat refined. There we go. You get a kill wound in the heart, you get a serious wound in a diamond, and you get a light wound in the circles. We've got a large combat set of combat examples, which is always nice. We've got star travel, because of course starships are an important game. Now these are much more like, as I said, the alien starships, pieced together vessels. They're not swooping starfighters and all that. They are larger cargo type vessels, which you use dropships and things to reach planetary surfaces. Stutter warp drives, so detailing how the hyperspace, the stutter warp system works with the 7.7 light year limit. That's how far as they can do in one jump before the engine starts damaging itself. Now it mentions other ways of getting around that, carrying 2 drives, but you need a skilled engineer to activate the drive, as they can destroy themselves in being turned on or off. We've got space combat section. ship listings and different types of starships. And they're all illustrated, which is nice. I've seen so many science fiction games where they just give text descriptions of starships, and that really doesn't do it for me. Got fighters, catapults, what else we got? Dead gliders, any sort of unpowered re-entry vehicle, space planes, shuttles, Kaifer vessels with their Beta-class battlecruiser, Golf-class fighters, X-ray missiles, a sheet for your starship details. Then we've got how to generate worlds, giving you a clue how to put one together for yourself, because obviously the star map just gives you the names, it doesn't actually really tell you much. Stellar radius, star mass, lots and lots of details about generating worlds here. Going into perhaps too much detail, but very, very useful for a games master who wants to create a detailed campaign. Satellites, star data, and then we're on to world mapping. Animal encounters you might have on an alien world, including hit locations, so some kind of bear, a pig or hippopotamus, a swan, a hawk-like being. Travel times over different terrains. NPC data sheet. And then we've got the following, the same as in the player's book. We've got the nations of Earth, the colonies of Earth, and the various maps. And the near star map once again on the back cover. So that is Traveller 2300 AD. It's a very nice game. I find it was sadly overlooked, as I much preferred it, the nearer setting, the fact that it's almost possible instead of just incredibly high sci-fi Star Wars-like stuff. Although I love Star Wars and it's my game that I games master at the moment. But I do tend to prefer my science fiction to be more near-future stuff which isn't quite as fantastical, things which aren't as unbelievable. For example, starships in 2300 do not have artificial gravity. You're floating around in them. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough. As usual, please like, subscribe and comment below, as it does me massive favours with the YouTube algorithm. But most of all, as always, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.